Okay, folks, I think we've given it enough time there. So I'm going to get cracking. So for anyone who's just joined, you're very welcome to this, our final talk on our first day of Postgraduate Webinar Week with DCU. And my name is Martin Kelly, and I'm joined by my colleague, Frank Farrell. We're both within the Student Recruitment Office. We're going to be here discussing the application process for both EU and non-EU fee-paying students. And if you have any questions, please do type them into the chat. And then once I've finished the presentation, Frank and I will do our best to answer any questions that you may have. And you're all very welcome, and I hope you find this session beneficial. So just in starting off, guys, so the application process. Our number one tip, and we will have a couple of these, but our first tip above all else is do your research before you make an application. It may sound a bit silly, but the amount of people that think they know what a course is about and then they apply and they realize it's something entirely different would astound you. So that's our number one tip. Do your research before you make your application. Now, how do you do this? We do have some resources available to you at DCU. So you can visit our Postgraduate Hub, okay? Our Postgraduate Hub is the beating heart of all things postgraduate with DCU. If you go onto our website and you search Postgraduate Hub, it'll bring you straight to it. And within there, we have basically a one-stop shop of information for everything that you'll possibly need to learn more about postgrad study with DCU. So for example, here you can see where some of the arrows are pointing to some of the key resources that we have. Our postgraduate course listings there across all our 5 faculties. We have the option there for you to sign up and register with the application portal as well. But you can see underneath that we've got things like information on our upcoming events, the application process, and funding opportunities. For example, we've also got an option there to look at some of the employability stats with DCU and some tips for international students. So all that material there for you to research and know better about your course before you apply is there at your fingertips. So that's our first piece of advice, is just make sure you do your research, look up the courses, look up what DCU is like, look up what's available to you as a postgrad student if you decide to study with us. Now, obviously, research is not just about the external parts of your course in terms of the application process and the fees and funding, but it's about finding the program that's right for you. So if you click on the blue button that was highlighted on the last screen, our DCU postgraduate course listings, it will bring you here. And you can see here, it'll give you a breakdown of all the course listings by faculty. So for example, you wanted to learn more on the MBA, you'd simply click under the business skill, you'd see the MBA there, you'd be able to click more. And with that, you will be brought to the course webpage where there's a whole host of information. It has the entry requirements to the course, the fees to the course. It will have the study options available. So is it part-time? Is it full-time? Additionally to that, it might have any information on scholarship or funding opportunities. And of course, it would give you things like the application deadlines and the module structures and those types of core pieces of information. Additionally, it also gives you the career prospects. So we base our career prospects off what our previous graduates, our alumni, have gone on to do. So you'll be able to get an idea of where this course can get you in terms of your career aspirations as well. Now, in terms of then, obviously, the course web pages, as I've mentioned, they act as an online prospectus. There's plenty of information there in terms of the content and the module descriptions, but there's also some of the more practical information that you're going to need in terms of applying for the course as well. So for example, here it will have the course codes. You can see here on the MBA, it's DC951. And it will have maybe a faculty point of contact. So more often than not, we would have the program chair, or bare minimum, we would have the faculty direct email address as well. As I say, it does give snapshot information like the duration and level of qualification that you receive. Additionally, it will give some additional application guidance in the next steps section, and it will give the course closing dates. So for the vast majority of our programs, there are a handful of exceptions, but the vast majority, the application closing dates for European students, European fee-paying students, is the 1st of July. So for the current intake of students, it will be the 1st of July 2025. That's when you have until submit, the 31st of July for EU fee-paying students. That's when you'll have to submit your application. For non-EU fee-paying students, you have until the 1st of July to submit your application. For the vast majority of courses, I do want to emphasize some of them do have unique closing dates. So make sure you do your research, you go onto the course webpage, and you have a proper look to make sure when the application dates close. That will be in the next step section as well. So in terms of then, you've done your research, you've realized this is the course for you. Our next tip is to use, when setting up your account and getting ready for your application on the student application portal, is to use things like an active email address that's monitored regularly. If you happen to be one of our undergraduate students, we wouldn't recommend using your undergraduate student email address, because once you graduate as an undergraduate student, they only stay active for 6 months. So our main recommendation here when you're creating your account is to use an active email address that you would monitor regularly for updates regarding your application. Maybe you've received an offer. It's just very important that you use one that you're going to be you're going to be seeing regularly, and therefore you'll be able to see our updates regularly as well. So the link obviously to the student application portal can be found on each course webpage, or like I showed you earlier, directly on the Postgraduate Hub as well. So there's plenty of ways to find it. Now, to create an account, guys, you have to obviously complete all mandatory fields. So tip 3, you should use your full name, and the full name that matches obviously the name on your passport. Include things like your mobile phone, your country code number. Fill out all this essential information correctly from the beginning. If you don't, it does cause you headaches later on in the application process. So take your time, do it diligently, and make sure you're filling it out correctly from the very beginning. And obviously the contact information is the main part, but we'd also ask for things like your study information. So obviously what your previous degree was, your transcripts, those kind of things. Create a password that's easy to remember and quick to use. Obviously, it goes without saying, if you're like me and you forget your passwords 4 or 5 times a day, I'm probably not the best example, but please make sure you create a password that's easy to use and easy to remember. Create your account as soon as you've decided the course is for you as well, guys. Just get your application in. Don't waste time on it, because it will leave you plenty of time to do the application at the right pace for you. Make sure you can do it diligently, and make sure you can obviously do it correctly as well, so you don't have to go back and forth with our admissions team on a regular basis. So once obviously the account is created, once you've done all that, you've done your due diligence, you've filled everything out correctly, you can then go on to create a new application. So obviously you would go on and you would click through into your applications. It will obviously say you do not have currently any new applications because you've only just set up, but you click here on the create a new application button, and then it brings you through to your tabs. So there's 5 main tabs that you have to complete. There's your personal information tab, there's your study plans, there's your qualifications, and then of course there's your experience and your confirmation. So your personal information goes without saying. Your name, your country codes, your name of birth as it appears obviously on your birth certificate, your study plans, what course you'd like to do, your qualifications, what academic experience do you bring to date, or in experience, DCU does look after people with recognition of prior learning, so previous industry experience. If you want to include that, you can include that in the experience tab. And then obviously just your confirmation that all the information you're submitting is accurate and correct at the time of submission, okay? Then you obviously pay the application fee. So the application fee is a €50 non-refundable payment. You make that online payment once you submit your application. Okay, so that's fairly standard stuff, but just to note that it is non-refundable. Now, you can make multiple applications as well. So after you submit your application, you'll be sent an email which allows you to apply for 2 other applications using an application fee waiver code. So wait till you get the email with the application waiver code, and you'll be able to make 2 more applications. We would obviously say, and this goes without saying, that you choose your genuine order of preference when you select more than one course. So if, for example, your number 1 priority is psychology, put psychology first. Your second might be psychotherapy. Your third might be health and social inclusion. Don't put them in an order that you're not looking for your preferential. Put your number 1 as number 1, your number 2 as number 2, and your number 3 as number 3. I know it sounds obvious, but we have had cases where people don't seem to understand this and they put them in the wrong order. So your number 1 course that you want to do the most, that's number 1, and then they go by order of preference after that. So another part of the application, guys, will be outside of your personal information and your academic transcripts. You will be asked to supply supplementary items. So how this will work, okay? You'll click on the View tab to see the supplementary items associated with the application, like what we're seeing here. You click on Choose Files to select the supplementary item, and then you click Upload to submit each item one at a time. Now, what are some of these supplementary items? So, for example, a form of identity, like your passport, or, for example, your evidence of your primary degree. So each year of transcripts for each year of academic study as well. They will be examples of supplementary items that you'd be asked to supply. Additional ones that you might add are some things that we would actually just say in terms of guidelines with your supplementary items. Would be things like, for example, if you're supplying an identity proof, like your passport, your driving license, make sure it's a clear copy, make sure it's in date. For things like your transcripts, it must be a copy of the original document. There must be a transcript for every year of study. It must be signed or stamped by your institution. And if you're in your final year, even if you just supply provisional transcripts while you're making your application, you don't have your final year ones, but you have a rough indication of what grade you're going to achieve, send us what you have while making the application. That's what we would say. So additional items that you might be asked for. Your CV, for example. So if a CV is required for the course you're applying to, make sure it's up to date. Ensure the key information is there that could help your application. So for example, your work experience or your professional qualifications. A personal statement. So if required, a personal statement should be tailored to the DCU course you're applying for. Usually they're between 700 to 1,000 words, and we would recommend that you include items such as why you feel you'd be a good candidate for the course, what experience you have to date that helps you in understanding the teachings that are going to be in the course, and above all, why you really want to do the course as well, and why you feel you'd be a good fit for the course and a good fit for DCU as well. Now, in some cases, if you come from a non-native English-speaking country, you will be asked to supply proof of an English language proficiency test. Now, these details can be found on our website. It's a very quick search. You literally have to type in English language requirements into our website, and you'll find the guidelines there. We accept all the major ones like IELTS, TOEFL, and Duolingo as well, and just the varying scores by faculty are there for your review. So just a very quick look at our website just to see those. Now, once your application then and all the supplementary items are uploaded, your application will be marked as submitted. So fairly straightforward there. Once you have your application filled out, your supplementary items included, and once you've hit submit, your application is submitted. Once that's done, the application will be reviewed by our central admissions unit, so our admissions team, and the program chair sometimes if required. You'll then receive email correspondence to inform you of an update on your application, or to check your application portal for updates. Bear in mind, guys, we usually say this is anywhere up to 2 weeks, but this is dependent on the time of year that you apply. Right now, we've literally just opened our applications. They're open a little over a month at this point. So you could expect to hear back from our admissions team within 2 weeks. If you apply at certain times of the year where certain courses have their deadlines and there's a high volume of applications coming in, please don't expect to hear in 2 weeks. We have to appreciate that our admissions team are working extremely hard, and sometimes they get a high volume of applications at certain times in the year. So you might expect to hear later in the year, or a bit later than 2 weeks, depending on what time of the year you apply. And just to reiterate, the application deadline dates for EU fee-paying students are the 1st of July, 2024. Beg your pardon, 2025, that's what it should say. So the application deadline dates for EU fee-paying students are the 1st of July, 2025. And for non-EU fee-paying students, it's the 31st of July, 2025. So you still have plenty of time, but we'd recommend to get your application in as soon as possible. Now, once you then receive an update on your application, it will usually come in one of the following forms. And I'm just going to get all these on screen and then go through them all, okay? So you can see here, we have a couple of different updates that you could possibly receive. So you could receive a firm offer. That is an offer where you have met all the criteria, you've satisfied the criteria, and we'd like to offer you a place on the course. A firm acceptance. You've accepted your unconditional offer. Now, you have 2 weeks from the time you receive your offer to accept it, okay? And this is similar to the vein of your conditional offer. So you'll receive a conditional offer when you meet most of the criteria. You meet maybe 9 out of the 10 items on the list, but the admissions team are still waiting on a handful of documents or a certain criteria to be met before they give you a fully fledged firm offer. So a prime example of this might be for anyone who's a final year undergraduate. You're applying at the moment, you're asked to supply obviously all years of transcript for your years of study, but you're still in your final year. You don't have your final year transcripts yet. So as a result, the admissions team might look at that and make you a conditional offer to say, we're offering you a place on the course in proviso that you supply the final year transcripts. And obviously you can correspond with the admissions team just to let them know that you're still waiting on them, and they will be patient in terms of waiting to receive those documents as well. So you can have a conditional accept. You've accepted your conditional offer. Obviously you have to do that within 2 weeks as well. And then once that condition has been satisfied, a firm offer will be sent to you as well. Unfortunately, there are those that are unsuccessful. So that might be for a variety of reasons. For example, you might not have met the entry requirements, or the program maybe had met its quota, depending on what time of year you applied. You could be added to the waiting list, so the program is full, but the applicant is on a waiting list for a place. Sometimes people defer or drop out. Or you might be invited to interview before an offer is given. So some programs have an interview requirement. Essentially, this is usually done by the program chair, who just wants to ascertain if your previous academic or professional experience meets or qualifies you to be able to study on the course. Once all this is complete, your application will be changed to one of the above status. Okay, so once you satisfy any of these, be it conditional offer, be it you've done your interview, your application will be changed to one of the above. You'll either be a firm accept, an unconditional, or a conditional offer. You might be unsuccessful as well. So it's usually one of those three. So in terms of then actually setting up your account and making your application, first you create an account in the student application portal. You create your new application and you pay a €50 application fee. Okay. Once that's done, you upload all your supplementary items. So your passport, your transcripts of your previous academic study. You then ensure your application status is submitted. So make sure you've actually submitted all this information once you've filled out your application portal and you've uploaded your supplementary items. Then once you've made sure that that's submitted, your next step is to await an email notification to check your student application portal. And as I say, depending on what time of year you apply, this is anywhere within a 2 week to slightly over 2 weeks in duration in waiting for that email. Once that's done, once you eventually get the email, you log into the student application portal to review the offer in whatever form it might take. You accept and pay a €500 deposit to secure your place. And then if the offer is conditional, you upload against the condition at the earliest convenience. Okay. So that's your timeline. That's what your steps are and stages are in the application process. And as soon as you've gone through all this and you've accepted your offers or you've met your conditions, all you have to do is sit tight. The admissions team will reach out to you in August to begin the registration process as a student. So guys, if you have any admissions questions that maybe Frank and I are not able to help you with this evening, you can contact the admissions team depending on what fee status you fall under at Postgraduate admissions at dcu.ie if you're an EU fee paying student, or if you're a non-EU fee paying student, you can email them at internationaladmissions at dcu.ie. And before I finish up, I just briefly want to talk to you about fees. So our fee range and our fee schedule, these are the main things that we're going to discuss, okay? Our fee ranges for EU fee-paying students are in the average of between $7,200 to $12,500. For non-EU fee-paying students, it averages anywhere between $2,600 to $25,000. It just depends on the course that you're doing. The fee schedule then, payment of semester one fees is 60% of the relevant course fee to be paid online during your registration process. And for payment of semester two fees, it's 40% of the relevant course fee, which is paid in January 2025, or 2026 in this instance. If you have any queries at all, generally for fees, guys, it's fees@dcu.ie. But that's all from me, and thank you very much for your kind attention. So I'm going to hand it to the floor now, where myself and Frank will answer any questions.